Hello everyone, and welcome to a very special conversation. Today, I have the honor of speaking with David Glowacki, a researcher, artist, and friend of the Leisure Retreat Center. During the pandemic, Dave and his team spent time living and working here, and during that time, something magical happened. Today, we are going to talk about the Tara project, the beautiful paintings of green Tara and white Tara that he created in our two yoga shalas, and the energy they brought and continue to bring to our space. Dave, welcome. It's so good to see you again. Thank you for being here. Could you start by sharing a little bit about the time you spent at Dalijo during the pandemic? What was the experience like for you and your team?
Yeah, sure. So I guess I arrived in Dalijo in October of 2020, and then I lived in Dalijo for approximately a year and a half maybe, while Dalijo was shut down for the pandemic, and I had I had developed a practice of sort of creating representations of Tada. And when I showed these representations to Nico, um, the owner of Dalijo, he was very interested, and he said, "Well, if you'd like to paint a Tada in the Yogashala at Dalijo, now is a good opportunity because there's nobody at Dalijo because everything is closed for COVID." And at that point, I had only painted a green Tata. And so I experimented with painting a white Tata, which is the Tata that's in the main Yogashala. And then after that finished, he invited me to paint a second Tata, a green Tata, in the mountain top house.
Now, the green Tara. And can you walk us through the process of creating the green Tara and white Tara? Because I remember you projected the image on the windows, you painted,
Mhm,
and then we all wrote our wishes, and you
mhm,
painted it again. So
mhm.
could you tell us more about the symbolism of that process?
Yeah, so it's really typical that in a lot of at least contemplative art that you find in the East, particularly in Buddhism and Hinduism, it's often the case that um, the sacred artworks sort of contain prayers and intention. So that they're kind of the idea is that they carry prayers and intention within them. And so an important part of both the green Tata and the white Tata was to offer people the opportunity to write their prayers or their intentions or their thoughts or any energy that they wanted to express to Tata, and they would write that on the composition, and then I would paint over it. And this happened for many layers actually. So people would write their prayers and then I would paint over it. And then they would write their prayer on the next layer and then I would paint over it. And then they write the prayer on the next layer and I would paint over it. And so the idea is that both the white Tata and the green Tata are sort of containers for sort of the thoughts and the prayers and the intentions of people that are part of the Dalijo community. And so they have a strong connection in
Mm.
that way that people have a kind of energetic link with each of the tatas.
Yeah, thank you. And for those who may not be familiar with Tara, especially in a retreat context, could you share what green Tara and white Tara represent to you?
Sure. So the word Tata in Sanskrit means star. And so Tata is a Buddha, and she's one of the more rare Buddhas because most of the Buddhas take place in a male form, right? So Buddhas as enlightened beings have no gender. but they have to take a physical form when they're sort of interacting in the dimension of humans. And so most of the Buddhas that people see will appear as male in the with a male body, but Tara is sort of unique in that she appears as a female, and so she's kind of a representation of feminine energy. And Tara is often called the mother of all Buddhas. So in that sense, she has some relationship to like Maria in maybe the Christian or the Catholic tradition as being the mother of God. And so Tara tends to represent sort of the embodiment of um, the embodiment of wisdom expressed through the five elements.
Mm-hmm.
And so green Tara and white Tara are distinct in that they represent a different balance of the five elements. So, for example, in Tibetan five element theory, the green color is associated with the wind element. And so the idea of Tara is that her wisdom and her compassion can be expressed very quickly, just like the wind, which can travel very long distances in a short period of time. White Tara is her color tends to represent the space element, and space is a really important element in the element theory of Tibetan Buddhism because space is the element that allows all of the other elements to have their form, right? So none of the other elements can have their form without the space element. And so, in a certain sense, in the same sense that the womb, la matriz,
Mm-hmm.
is the sort of gives form to everything
Yeah.
that can arise. The idea with white Tara is that as a space element, she enables the possibility for sort of infinite of she enables the sort of infinite possibility for anything to emerge.
Oh, great. Thank you. And now our yoga shalas are named Green Tara Shala and White Tara Shala, and many guests have expressed how deeply they feel the energy of the Taras. How does it feel to know that your art continues to support the spiritual practice of those who visit Talijo?
It makes me happy. I mean, that's the whole point of
Was our aim. Your
when
aim, sorry.
when you make a sacred artwork, the idea is that you create a sort of energetic focal point that has the potential to carry on radiating wisdom and compassion, which can benefit people. And one of the ideas, the style of the tatas, I painted them in a traditional style called the tanka. So that's the traditional style of painting the deity in this particular positions with their fingers in a particular position. This is called tanka. And the idea of tanka is that if it's done in a way that respects the tradition and it's done with the correct amount of sort of intention and love, the idea is that it's not just a representation of a Buddha, is that it is actually a Buddha,
Mhm.
right? And so in a sense, I'm not surprised to hear that people feel that energy. It's what I would have expected if people sit with the tatas for even a little amount of time. I think they will feel that. Um, but obviously, it makes me very, very happy to know that the Tata energy is strong
Yeah, we can.
and is impacting people in that way. So thank you.
No, thank you. And after completing the Tara paintings here at Talijo, you continued the journey and created another Tara in Peru. So, could you share a bit about that experience, how it was connected to the earlier projects, and how it expanded your vision of what this work could be?
Sure. So, um, yeah, after after I finished the tatas in Dalijo, I think I finished the green tata in September of 2022. And then, wait, September of 2021, I finished the green tata, I think. Yeah. And then I then started a new tata in Peru at an ayahuasca center in the jungle, in northern Peru, an area called Ceja de Selva, which is sort of the mountains that go around the sort of very low jungle, a region where a lot of coffee and cacao grows. And I had the opportunity to live for about a year, not continuously, but 3 months here, 4 months there, 3 months, 4 months sort of thing, at the home of an ayahuasquera, a woman who is trained to sort of cook ayahuasca and sing the ayahuasca songs in the traditional ways, called Maria Cristina Mendoza. And I showed her the tatas that I had made in Dalijo, and she got very interested in having a tata at her home where she runs ayahuasca ceremonies in Peru. And so I had the opportunity to develop a tata, and I made a green tata because in that context, being very close to the jungle, green seemed to capture the sort of energy of all the plants and the wildlife in a way that was very harmonious. And I had the opportunity to make this tata under the effects of ayahuasca over that period. And so I had the opportunity to sit and visualize tata, green tata, under the effects of ayahuasca. And so if you see the green tata that emerged from that process, you really can see geometries that are very, very distinct in how they feel compared to the tatas that I made in Dalijo, where I was not under the influence of ayahuasca.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was really fascinating to kind of use ayahuasca as an artistic tool
Mm-hmm.
to support a different kind of visualization of the energy of Tata.
Oh, great. Thank you. And you have also created something called the 1000 Taras.
10,000,
Yeah.
10,000.
I 10,000, sorry,
Yeah,
10,000.
10,000.
And what is the idea behind that, and how does it relate to what began here at Talijo? 10,000.
Yeah. Well, the idea of the 10,000 Tatas project is really to start to document the process of creating the Tatas. Because as I started making the Tatas, people started asking to see photos and understand the process and
Mm.
understand a little bit more about Tata. Um, and so in a lot of Asian traditions, 10,000 just means a lot, right? So if 10,000 just means a lot of something. So the idea of 10,000 tatas was really just a lot of tatas, like more than you can count.
Yeah.
And so I set that website up as a way just to kind of document the process and
Mhm.
archive what was happening. And I think there is an intention implicit in the name of the website to make more tatas than we can count.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Hopefully, in what remains of my life, I'll be able to make so many tatas that I lose count and maybe carry on. Um, yeah, creating the conditions for tata to emerge in a way that can help people on their paths.
Yeah. You never know. And one beautiful part of this project is that now we sell prints and frames of Tara designs at the retreat center. And guests can have even take one home or color their own version.
Mm.
What was your intention in making these pieces available behind the shalas? I think it's related with the 10,000 taras. It's like to
Yeah, well, I think what happened was it was quite simple. I think Ni people started coming to Dalijo and seeing the tatas and asking if they could have a print. They saw the tatas and then they liked the tata energy and they wanted to take tata energy back with them to their home. And so I did not intend to make prints available, but many people asked and they were interested in having a print of that particular tata because maybe they had had an experience of the energy of the Dalijo tatas, and so they wanted a print of that particular tata. And as I understand it, the funds that are being raised from selling the tata prints at Dalijo are being used for some of the reforestation efforts that are happening. So I think that's a really nice way for
Mm-hmm.
the tata um, to help benefit another really important project that's aimed at restoring the natural environment.
Plant a tree project, yeah.
Mhm.
So you see the Tara paintings more than art. How, in your opinion, do they connect with healing, transformation, or inner exploration?
Mhm. So that's a really good question. Um, there's a really important idea when you're looking at a Buddha. The idea is that there's a really important thing to understand, which is that any given Buddha is a manifestation of any other of a different Buddha, right? So energy is continuous and it just reveals itself in different forms. And so, the story of Tata is that she was one of her origin stories is that she was born from the teardrops of another Buddha called Avalokiteshvara. And Avalokiteshvara, so Tata is a manifestation of a particular energetic component of Avalokiteshvara. And Avalokiteshvara Buddha was a manifestation of Shakyamuni Buddha. And Shakyamuni Buddha is a manifestation of like mind and awareness itself. And mind and awareness itself is you, right? Like you are participating in that. And so if you connect that circle, so Tata, Avalokiteshvara, Shakyamuni, mind itself, and you, and then you close the circle, then when you look at Tata, the idea is that you're looking at yourself through a different set of glasses. And so this is a really important idea, which is that when I explain to people how to look at Tata, what I say is you must not see her as something that's separate from yourself. So, normally when we look at artworks, we think of ourselves here and the artwork over there. But with Tata, you need to think of her as an extension of yourself. And so what I say to people when they're looking at Tata is I say, imagine that she is a mirror who's reflecting back at you aspects of compassion and wisdom which are radiating from yourself.
Mhm.
And so with that way of looking at Tata, then you just see her as a sort of energy mirror that's reflecting back at you aspects of compassion and wisdom and love and beauty that are in yourself.
Mhm.
And then this is a very different way of looking at an artwork, right? This is not like, oh, I'm looking at an artwork as an object. It's I'm looking at something that's reflecting things back at myself. And so I think that's what distinguishes like a sacred artwork, particularly of a Buddha representation from like a lot of other classes of artwork.
Yeah, thank you. It was very inspiring. And now looking ahead, what are your future plans for the Tara project? Do you see it continuing to grow in other places or evolving in new directions?
Mhm. So Yes. So recently, I got a um, commission from the U.S. National Science Foundation to make a version of the Tata in Peru that can travel the world in a sort of portable installation. And so, basically, what happened was the Tata in Peru was experienced by a woman who manages an arts portfolio grant from the U.S. National Science Foundation.
Mm.
And she had a very powerful experience looking at Tata over the course of a week. And then she approached me and asked me, would you be able to make a version of this Tata that could potentially travel so that, because at the moment, if you want to see that Tata, you have to go to like, it's very difficult to go to the jungle in Peru to see that Tata. I mean, it's a very long trip and it's very difficult and the roads are not good quality and it takes a long time. But the idea is that we're making a version of the Tata that can travel. And so I'm actually making it in my studio. I'm making that version of the Tata right now, and it's made from more than 1,000 individual laser cut pieces of aluminum that are hand painted,
Mhm.
which I will then assemble as a sort of large mosaic anywhere that I want. And what's really great about this is instead of me having to be, so each one of the taras at Dalijo and the Peru Tara, each one takes between 500 and 1,000 hours.
Mhm.
Like that process of making and painting, which means I have to be there for a long
Yeah.
time.
Mhm.
So the idea of making a Tara that I can, create here at my art studio in Santiago is then I can go to a place and install the Tara, and maybe it will only take me like 1 week to do the
Yeah.
installation instead of, 6 months or
Yeah, yeah,
something. And so I'm working on that piece right now, and that project is described on the 10,000 Tatas website, and there's videos and photos that you can see which show the process so far, and she's like amazingly beautiful. And Part of the other idea is that this Tata will also have LED lights behind her so that the light will shine through the cracks in the laser cut mosaic. And I've done some initial prototypes of that and it looks super beautiful. And I'm actually looking for volunteers to help me with that project, there's a lot of work that needs to be done, painting and cutting and
yeah. Can imagine.
hacking and things. So I'm actually have some little bit of funding to support anybody who's interested coming to
Good.
my studio in Santiago to help me with that project for some time. So if any of your listeners are
Yeah.
interested, they can contact me.
Very good. Dave, thank you so much for sharing your time, your art, and your heart with us, both during your time at the Lijo and today in this conversation. And good luck with the future plans of Tara project.
Okay.